back to the shop. In this video, I'm going to show you how to turn this solid block of maple into this. And what exactly is this? This is a hand-turned Carvers mallet that I made over the last few weeks. What exactly is a Carvers mallet? A Carvers mallet is typically used for chisel and carving work. The round head allows good contact all around with the butt of your chisels. This particular Carvers mallet is made out of curly Ambrosia maple, which was a complete surprise because I was not expecting this when I made it. So I really love the way this looks, the way it turned out. I'll probably put this on display and I'll make another one for repeated use and abuse. But I want to make a mallet for my growing hand tool, traditional hand tool woodworking collection. And I figured what better way to do that than make one on the lathe out of a piece of scrap wood that I had laying around here in the shop. So turned out beautifully, and I hope you guys enjoy the journey. All right, the first step we're going to need to do with this, making this mallet, is actually get rid and turn this into a more manageable piece of work material that we can mount up onto the lathe. So I want the overall size of this mallet to be pretty generally about the size of this roll of tape. So we'll set it on top and we'll mark out our general size, diameter of our workpiece. And then we'll take this over to the bandsaw and we'll cut away either in a square or an octagonal shape and get rid of all this extra waste material so we can mount it onto the lathe and make it easier to turn. And that'll be our first step. So we'll get everything set up get the bandsaw set up and start making our initial cuts and get us down to something that's more manageable to work with. So let's do that. Now this bandsaw that I'm using is an older 40-plus-year-old Craftsman bandsaw that I picked up on Marketplace several years ago. So this is really what I have and what I use. I made this kind of sacrificial fence set up here just out of some leftover one-bys and have it clamped to the table. It works fairly well. So what we'll do is get our piece set up here. And I've already figured out about where I want this to go. So we'll cut it as close to this edge as possible and get rid of this waste area here. So that's what we'll do now. I guess it's a nice piece here. It's going to be a really nice, got some kind of almost ambrosia to it. So it'll be really nice. Going to make for a really nice looking piece here. So everything reset back up and we'll continue to make the rest of our cuts all the way around. All right, now that we've got it somewhat cut to a more manageable shape here for the lathe, I've got it chucked up now. And essentially what we're going to do now is we're going to start turning it and getting it into an actual round cylindrical shape. Now this end up here will stay pretty much about the same. We're just going to round it off because we want this mallet about a 3-inch in circumference all the way across. And then it's going to taper down. We'll go 10 inches, about 10 inches. It's a 12-inch piece. And that'll be the full length of the mallet. So down on this end will be the handle where it'll rest. So we want to get it tapered down, but we'll just get it centered up first, and then we'll come back through and do our actual shaping. So this is one of the largest pieces, or is the largest piece I've ever done on a lathe. And what we'll do is, like I see in the previous video, I use these replaceable carbide tip turning tools or gouges. And I'll start with a larger one just to get all this rough material, get it roughed up, and then I'll come back and use these two for final shaping. But that's really it. We'll get everything lined up and get started. So you guys stand by and enjoy. Thanks. Now that we've got it turned into our cylindrical shape that we need, we're going to start shaping this into the actual mallet. So what we've got here, we've got 3-inch diameter on the head side. We're going to taper down to 2.5 on the bottom of the head. We're going to taper down again to a 1-inch valley, back up to an 1.5 inch rise, down to a 1-inch valley, and then a 2-inch at the plummet. So the way this is going to work, your hand should sit right about this 1.5 inch rise, and your fingers will set down into this valley, kind of something like this. So this is the way that we'll shape it, and that's what we'll do next. So we'll start kind of just get everything roughed down to a size, and we'll leave all of this here just for stability, and then we'll cut this off at a later time. So that's what we'll do now, and we'll get everything set up. All right, so over the last several days, I've been slowly working away at this mallet when I had a chance. So this is it now. This is its final shape and form that I was going for. I really didn't film any of this, so I'll kind of go over a couple of steps that I did. First step, I used a larger spindle gouge, and that took it from the last segment where we saw where it was a larger shape, just a larger cylindrical piece, and took a lot of material down, especially here in this handle area, where I took it down to 1 inch and 1.5 inches in this area. And then I come back with both a square tip and a smaller radius, round radius, to give some of these curves and clean it up a bit. It's got some really nice ambrosia maple in it, or ambrosiaing, and also, I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's some really nice curled figure in this maple. It's going to be a really nice when we get a finish on it. This is kind of what I was going for. I think the plumel got a little bit bigger than I'd like, but what I'm going to do next is I'll cut it off, and then we'll get into finishing. But let me talk a little bit about prior, after I got done gouging it, how I kind of sanded it up. So I started out with 180 grit sandpaper, just went around it, cleaned up any kind of roughness. I went back with a 220 grit, 320, 400, and then I come back and wet sanded with 600. That's really where I stopped at. It feels nice to the touch. I don't want it completely smooth where your hand's gonna be sliding all over it. I kind of still want that wood mallet feel. After we're done, I'm gonna get it sawed off here, and then we'll start actually the finish process. I'm gonna do something a little bit different. I watched a couple other videos that talked about how they finish hand tools. And we're gonna try something that I've never used before, and this is boiled linseed oil. And then I'm gonna finish it off with some paste wax. Hopefully that doesn't stain it up too bad. I really don't want it stained terribly bad, but I really wanna see this figuring in the wood. So let's get it all cut off here, and then we'll come back and we'll get everything cleaned up and we'll get into staining. Now that we're finished, let's talk a little bit about the finishing process I used. Man, this turned out beautifully. So I sanded this down to 600 grit. I added a couple of coats of boiled linseed oil and then paste wax over the top of it. Love the way this feels. Love the way it looked and turned out. That curly ambrosia maple, wow, beautiful. I was not expecting that at all when I first started this project. I thought this was just going to be just a plain Jane piece of maple, and that's really what it looked like from the outside. So I love the feel of it in my hand. This little lip I created fits perfectly for my thumb. It's weighted well, centered well. The only real change I made to this mallet was in the previous segment. I talked about a large plumble on the end, which I had left. Once I got it off the lathe, got it all cleaned up, I didn't really like the way that plumble felt. I didn't like the way it looked. It looked more like some medieval drinking trellis. But yeah, so I took that over. I took it over the bandsaw. I cleaned that off. I rounded over the best I could with my disc sander. But now I like that a little extra bulb here at the end. Or I would like it to have been a little bit more rounded over. But it fits good in the hand, keeps your hand. So beautiful piece of work. Again, this one will probably go on display. I'll make another one to use and abuse, but beautiful piece. Hope you guys enjoyed the journey, and see you next time. Thanks a lot.